A boy runs around a bush playing with his family in broad daylight and is never seen again. A college student rounds a bend on a hiking trail with witnesses right behind her and simply isn't there. 5 people vanished from the same small mountain in Vermont over 5 years. 0 explanations. These are real cases, no bodies, no evidence, no closure. Today we're counting down the top 10 places on Earth where people keep disappearing and where the answers are still nowhere to be found. I'm Olivia. Let's get into it. The Smoky Mountains are the most visited national park in America. Tens of millions of people hike through every year, and officially it has a very low disappearance rate. But here's the thing. Buried in those ancient, mist-covered ridges are at least 4 documented cases of people who walked in and simply never came back. Dennis Martin was just a boy when he ran behind a bush playing with his family in June 1969. What followed was one of the largest search efforts in Appalachian history. Hundreds of soldiers, park rangers, and elite trackers. Nothing. Not a footprint, not a scrap of clothing. Then there's Trenny Gibson, a teenager who disappeared without a trace in 1976. Some accounts suggested the military found something during the Martin search and went quiet. Whether that's true or not, the park doesn't give answers. Nullarbor comes from Latin. It means no tree. And looking at the landscape, you understand why. Over 200,000 square kilometers of flat, featureless nothing stretching across southern Australia. Travelers who stop on the Eyre Highway sometimes don't continue. People step out to stretch their legs and aren't heard from again. Beyond the confirmed disappearances, the Nullarbor has a history of something stranger. In 1988, a family called the Knowleses reported that their car was physically lifted off the road by an unknown force before being dropped back down. Multiple other drivers in the same region reported similar phenomena that same year. Whatever's out there in all that emptiness, it doesn't seem to limit itself to what's explainable. The English translation for the Albanian name of this place is Accursed Mountains. Already not a great sign. This remote range along Albania's northern border has its own centuries-old code of law, the Kunin, which governs hospitality, honor, and notably blood feuds that can span generations. People disappear into feuds that outsiders never learn about, but it goes beyond that. In 2024, an Australian hiker named Cameron Twiss went missing somewhere in this range. Months of searching turned up nothing. Experienced mountaineers vanish on trails locals know well enough to never walk alone. And then there's the mythology, centuries of stories about this land choosing who it lets leave. Whether you believe that or not, the Accursed Mountains have a pattern, and the name feels less like poetry and more like a warning. In 1989, rescue helicopters swept over Japan's largest national park on the island of Hokkaido. 2 hikers had gone missing. From the air, the crew spotted an SOS signal carved into the snow, a clear distress sign. They landed and found one of the hikers. The other, a man named Iwamura, was simply not there, not injured nearby, not buried under snow, gone. 37 years later, he is still missing. No remains have ever been found, and there's no explanation for how someone vanishes from an open snowfield with a helicopter directly overhead. This place spans over 2,200 square kilometers of volcanic terrain and dense forest, and hiker disappearances there happen with a frequency that Japanese authorities have never been able to fully account for. The SOS mystery remains one of Japan's most haunting open cases. For centuries, people have reported the same thing along the ridgelines above Big Sur. Tall, dark figures standing motionless, watching before vanishing the moment you look directly at them. The Chumash people knew about them long before settlers arrived. John Steinbeck wrote about them. They're called the Dark Watchers. And as easy as it is to chalk that up to folklore, pair it with the documented disappearances, and it gets harder to brush off. Hiker Arvin Nelson vanished in 2014 during what should have been a straightforward backcountry trip. Caroline Meister disappeared on a day hike in 2024. The terrain is brutal. Steep, brushy cliffs dropping straight to the Pacific. That explains some of it, but the cases with no trace, no recovery, no evidence at all, those are definitely harder to close out. Between 1945 and 1950, 5 people vanished from a tiny area of southwestern Vermont near Glastonbury Mountain. 5 people, 5 years, same stretch of wilderness. Mitty Rivers was a 74-year-old experienced hunting guide who stepped ahead of his group and was never seen again. The following year, 18-year-old Paula Weldon rounded a bend on the long trail with witnesses right behind her and disappeared. Then, James Tetford vanished off a moving bus. Passengers saw him in his seat, but by the last stop, the seat was empty. A boy named Paul Jepson disappeared from the side of a road in broad daylight, and Frida Langer went missing while hiking with her cousin. Her body eventually turned up months later, cause of death undetermined. 5 people, no explanations. Glastonbury Mountain is barely inhabited now. Make of that what you will. In the 1990s, 6 young women vanished from a region of Eastern Ireland between Dublin and the Wicklow Mountains. Journalists eventually named it the Vanishing Triangle. And here's what makes it particularly unsettling. These women weren't disappearing from remote wilderness. Annie McCarrick was last seen leaving a pub. Deirdre Jacob vanished 500 meters from her family home on a clear summer afternoon. Several of the women were in places they'd been dozens of times before. No bodies were recovered, no confirmed suspects were ever charged in most cases. Ireland's Garda conducted massive investigations, task forces ran for years, and decades later, most of these cases are still open. The triangle holds its secrets, and those families are still waiting for answers. Highway 16 in British Columbia runs for 724 kilometers between Prince George and Prince Rupert. The RCMP officially records around 18 cases of women, mostly Indigenous women, who had their lives taken or disappeared along this corridor. Community advocates say the real number is likely far higher, possibly in the hundreds, with many cases going uninvestigated for years. For decades, hitchhiking was the only affordable way many people in these remote communities could travel the highway. People would get into vehicles and never reach the other end. Despite task forces, documentaries, and years of sustained pressure from Indigenous communities, most of these cases remain open. The Highway of Tears isn't just a geographical mystery, it's a crisis that's been hiding in plain sight and still doesn't have the attention it deserves. The South Nahanni River in Canada's Northwest Territories flows through some of the most remote land on the continent. Locals have had a name for this place for a long time: the Valley of the Headless Men. That is not a figure of speech. Since the early 1900s, at least 44 people have disappeared or been found dead in this region. 6 of them were discovered decapitated, heads missing, beside burned-out camps. In 1917, Swiss prospector Martin Jorgensen was found headless next to the charred ruins of his cabin. Brothers Willie and Frank McLeod went into the valley searching for gold and were found years later as skeletons, also without their heads. Since the 1970s, more than 20,000 people have gone missing inside a region of Alaska bounded by Juneau, Anchorage, and Barrow. 20,000. That's double the national disappearance rate. 16,000 of those cases happened after 1988 alone. In 1972, a small plane carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hale Boggs vanished somewhere over Alaska. What followed was one of the largest air searches in American history. They found nothing. No wreckage, no signal, no bodies, nothing. The practical explanations are real. The terrain is brutal, the weather is lethal, the wilderness is genuinely unmapped in some places. But even with all of that, the rate is still unexplained. Indigenous traditions in the region describe shape-shifting beings called the Kushtaka who lure travelers away from safety. Whether you believe that or not, experienced pilots, seasoned hunters, people who lived in Alaska their whole lives, they keep vanishing. And Alaska, so far, has not given them back. All right, guys, that has been our list for today. Thanks so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I will see you again soon. Bye! Bye!